Total War Warhammer 3 is not in great shape. It's currently sitting at a 64% review score, with just shy of 32,500 reviews, and the player base has already lost about 84% of launch numbers, and it's only been 3 weeks. To put that in perspective, most strategy games see about a 50 to 60% drop within the first month. Optimization is a huge issue right now. Mechanics and abilities seem outdated at best, using old Warhammer 2 builds from 2 years prior. Bugs are so prevalent that Papa Nurgle seems to have taken part in development himself. And while I am still enjoying the game, I've yet to ever be awestruck by it. Now, this may seem like the start to yet another video of me crapping on Warhammer 3, but I promise you it's not. Today, I'm just an aggrieved fan of a franchise that I've played since 2000, and I'm simply asking you to hear me out on something that is ultimately bigger than myself. Here's the big point. We as a community need to stop letting AAA, AA developers and publishers release games as fully developed titles when it's clear that they are not. As players of these titles, we should not take a game that works fine, accept it as such, and overlook the big issues, especially when it's part of a series. And defending what you might not believe to be a big deal does not encourage any company to make a better product. I mean, look, I fully understand being hyped for a game, believe me. Following a series of games in its entirety is an exciting venture when there are years of playtime, lots of solid content throughout those years. It can be so incredibly easy to just be content with whatever state a game is in just so you can get your dang hands on it and play it. I've fallen for it myself, which is half the reason why I'm making this video. I have fallen for the hype with Amplitude's HumanKind. I saw issues, and yeah, sure, I brought them up in videos and whatnot. But those same issues I accepted and continue to play the game, fully aware that the product given to me was not a fully and cohesively developed game. I bought into the hype with HumanKind, but I've learned from it too. Imperator Rome, Battlefield 2042, Thrones of Britannia, and now Warhammer 3. There's a pattern of community excitement that enables a developer to skirt major mechanics, rush development, cut corners, what have you, just to nab pre-orders and not deliver on what should be a full game. And CA really seems to have taken that by the horns and run with it for this one. Now look, I'm not here to dumb down this community. There was a lot of hype surrounding the game. Warhammer 3 is the conclusion of a trilogy 6 years in the making. It's the first attempt by Creative Assembly, well, really any developer, I think, to not just create 3 successive games in the exact same setting with intensive purpose, but to then turn it around and combine each one to create what could easily be the largest campaign map CA has ever conceived. Creative Assembly did a fantastic job building up this ultimate epic ending in our heads through fleshing out Warhammer 2 with some great DLCs and clever marketing by crafting mortal empires and promising us revolutionary change that would set the standard for all future Total War games. Hell, the delay was met with such high praise that CA would have had plenty of time to get the game in its best state possible despite so much evidence to the contrary. And to be completely honest, they used the Total War Creator program to execute all of that. I'm part of that program. By drip feeding us lore bits on legendary lords or unit spotlight videos and cinematic trailers. We devoured it, simp thirsty for anything related to the game, not vocalizing initially that what they were feeding us was pure candy. Delicious, yes, enticing, absolutely, but ultimately unfulfilling and lacking in real substance regarding the game itself. Yep, we enabled that cycle as creators. Partner channels and verified alike made countless videos that far exceeded CA's own marketing of their own game. No doubt in large part to take advantage of any pre-release sales for a nice commission paycheck. There's also some obvious hype in there. I mean, yes, lots of creators were genuinely excited for the game, money without. We hyped it, we analyzed it, we pointed to the new shiny things in trailers that all we wanted to see in the game and pushed the community to wishlist and pre-order. Then we enabled that cycle as a community. Those pre-orders flooded in like mad, desperate for that one sliver of confirmation that the game was finally coming for sure, desperate to secure that Ogre Kingdoms DLC for free, so willing to pay upfront for something that is already sliced up, ready to go DLC content that, let's face it, should have been in the game already. Now, there's no definitive way to determine exactly how many pre-orders of Warhammer 3 sold. But with an estimated 650,000 to 1.8 million copies sold on Steam alone, that's based on some analytical data, even if just 10% ordered, CA made a ballpark $1 to $10 million before the game even released. This was a group effort on our part. Even when criticisms arose from a handful of channels, they were shot down by a large portion of the community, even by other creators. Lore Master of Sotek's ice cream rant still rubs me wrong in so many ways. And for the most part, the Warhammer community just put blinders on and kept walking forward. Then there's the release, when the issues pop out of the woodwork on a scale not seen since Rome 2. Warhammer 3 was nowhere near in a state of full release. It just was not there. It easily could have cooked for another 6 to 8 months to hammer out anything, addressing the bigger issues of performance, potentially get some of the bigger later patches of Warhammer 2 into the base game for Warhammer 3, or at least just realize that your narrative in Warhammer 2 was not altogether well received, so why would you force another narrative for your last climactic conclusion? Now, no game is released in a perfect state. That's one thing I understand. As these games get larger and larger, it becomes harder and harder to find, report, fix, and implement those fixes. All things impossible when you don't prioritize a good quality assurance team. Keep that in mind. Then you turn it loose to tens of thousands of people on tens of thousands of PC specs, and what could just be called a public beta test at release. There's going to be issues that aren't present until then. Creative Assembly's PR pledge to crank out these loads of hotfixes is great, but it's yet another signal of a very unfinished game. And it caused a mass amount of confusion and anger, resulting in the dropout of players, as I mentioned at the start of this video. But the problem is that it's largely our fault. We enabled CA to do what was necessary to hit a delayed date and not risk another. We showed CA that we'd fork over millions of dollars before a game was released based solely on some blogs, cinematic videos, and a hype train. Even right at this moment, Reddit posts, comments on videos, social media snippets, there are people who are perfectly fine with the state of the game for whatever reason they've justified inside of them. Be it, CA did their best given the constraints of development, or it works great for me so I don't get the anger, or no matter how long they worked on it, people will moan and complain about something and just nitpick. It's not okay to think like that. And I don't believe people realize that this mentality is hurting themselves in the long run for future games. So I have a couple of big hopes with this dumpster fire that is Warhammer 3 right now. First, I hope that the community as a whole sees the danger in giving a huge company like CA a pass when it comes to developing games. Look, CA is the largest game dev company in the UK. It's not that they don't deserve a pass, more that they shouldn't even need to be considered for one, or lean on their community to try and obtain one. Warhammer 3 is not that fundamentally different from Rome 2. Its core system, the Warscape engine, has been in use for well over a decade. I've done some digging around in my time with Three Kingdoms and found useless code from Empire Total War. I asked CA Peeps if there was anything useful about it, and they said no, but we can't spend the time to clean it up. If the code is that daggum spaghetti and in need of a deep clean, that's a failure on CA's part. Not ours, not the communities, not the creators, it's Creative Assembly's. It should not be on us that there are so many conflicts and problems with the core structure of any game at all, especially when you know 100% that your code is a big, bad, jangled mess. Hopefully, you the community see that and understand it now. By giving a pat on CA's shoulder, saying, hey, at least you did your best, or being okay with a janky release, defending the game, or trying to justify their poor decisions, you only show CA that you are willing to pay $60+ for what is ultimately an early access game, that they can make millions from said early access format, and that only incentives them to repeat that for maximum profit. But you know what? It's okay to speak your criticisms for a game you are excited about. I do it all the time on this channel. You don't have to sit on the sidelines, super excited and cheering for a game, and not speak up when you have doubts. I always encourage anyone and everyone to voice their concerns. Be vocal. Don't be a douchebag about it. Instead, go into detail how you think the issue should be resolved and never degrade anyone while doing so. It doesn't mean you hate the game. Quite the opposite. It actually shows you care. And developers 100% see that. I guarantee you. And if enough of us do it, it might change their outlook on the community. But I also hope that Creative Assembly sees this fallout and learns from it. I honestly hope that they get burned hard so they don't try to do this again. CA is now losing a fan base for their most hyped game at a rate rarely seen in any strategy game, with losses comparable to the release of Battlefield 2042, because they put up this smoke and mirrors campaign to sell an unfinished project. It's highly possible the community will just flock back once Immortal Empires releases and everything will be hunky-dory. But if CA can't fix the big things before then, it's not looking great. I don't want CA to fail. I would hate to see CA stop making games, because I played every single one of them since I was a kid. What I want to see is historical titles come back, to see the chance of a Warhammer 40k Total War game, or even dives into other fantasy franchises. Yet, I do hope that they are forced to take a step back, reanalyze their approach going forward. Odds are this entire video is in vain, but hey, a man can hope.